Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Productivity Enhancer. Today we're going to take a look at how to animate text in Adobe After Effects CS6. We'll learn how to make examples like these, with either words, full lines of text, or individual characters animated to create a really nice looking title. So the first thing we need to do is to create a new composition, so just Control N for New Composition, and you can call this composition whatever you'd like. I'll just call it SolidBox Rules the World. And I'll keep the rest of the settings just as default. So now that we have our new composition, we're going to need a text layer. So we can either go up to Layer, New, and click Text, or choose from any of the other fine ways that we can select the text tool in Adobe After Effects. And then we just type out our text. SolidBox rules the world. There you go. Now, of course, just like all of the other programs in the Creative Suite, whenever we put text in any layer or any project, we have the ability to change the font, the size, the leading, etc., etc. If I wanted to change the font, I could just go up and grab a new one, and it would change just like that. However, I'll stick with the standard font that we use here at SolidBox. We can also orient the text differently. Let's keep it aligned to the left. And all of these settings and options are available for you. If you don't have these windows open, they can always be found under Window, and then we have the character and the paragraph windows right here. So now that we have our text, I'm just going to go ahead and scale it out a little bit. Hold Shift and pull this corner down, and that looks big enough. And now if I play through our composition so far, nothing happens. However, if I twirl down the arrow in this text layer, right next to text, you can see I have this little option called Animate. And by clicking the Animate option, I'm given a whole list of controls that allow animation for where the anchor point is, where the position is, scale, the skew, rotation, opacity, or all of the above. You can also animate things like fill color based on RGB, hue, saturation, brightness, and opacity. You can animate the stroke color and the stroke width, the tracking, line anchor spacing, character offset and value, and the blur. I'm just going to go ahead and start with a scale animation. And as you may guess, a scale animation allows you to animate the scale of words, characters, or individual lines associated with this layer. So when we added that animation, we're given an animator number 1. The animator is labeled number 1 because you can have a whole collection of animations associated with this composition. It doesn't have to be just one. You can animate the scale, and then you can turn around and animate the opacity as well. In that instance, the second one would show up as animator 2 and give you another whole set of adjustments that you can perform. So let's go ahead and twirl down that range selector. And what the range selector does is it gives you basically a starting point and an ending point for your animation. If we click on the start, you can see that it starts right here. We have this arrow that's pointing to this line and this line with this arrow here, denoting the end. So still, if I go ahead and hit the spacebar and play through any animation, nothing happens. That's because we haven't set any of the start or end position different from the basic default settings. So to go with a basic scale animation, we'll have to bring down this scale size down to 0 and make sure that they're linked. So we have 0, 0. And then we key a start frame at 0. Next, we drag our playhead out. Let's go ahead, maybe at 25 frames. And then with the start, we drag it up to 100. And then you can see that our text magically appeared. When I drag our playhead back and tap the spacebar, you can see that that animation now comes alive. Right now, each character is being animated separately to create this effect. But we can change that by going into the advanced settings. And you can see based on characters right now, you can also base it on characters excluding spaces, which in our instance, it would just exclude this one space here. So we won't bother with that. But we can change it to words or lines. And if we change it to words, we can see that the words individually animate themselves just like so. And if we select line, then it'll have 1, 2, 3 lines being animated. And you can see it just happen just like that. So I'm going to switch it back to words. And now, what if we have some audio that we want to associate with this sentence? We can have those words pop up exactly when the words are spoken in the audio track. So let's go ahead and grab that by importing a file. And I'm in the wrong folder here. So we'll grab this SolidBox Rules the World WAV file here. And I'm actually going to clean this up a little bit so I can drag this audio file down. There we go. And now when I twirl down the audio file triangle, we can see the waveform, and it starts right here And then it looks like we have some other words here. So let's just go through and do a little RAM preview so we can hear what it sounds like. SolidBox rules the world. So it's not too bad right now. It's not exactly lined up, but let me pull this animation key point back a little bit. And now to line up the animation with the words as they're spoken, we're going to want to change the advanced setting of units from percentage to index. And what the index does is it takes a tally of all the based on here, which is words, and lets you place the animation of each indexed word with a keyframe. So again, we're in index, we're on words, and I'm going to twirl this triangle so we have a little bit more access down here. And we're going to want to put the very first keyframe for SolidBox right as the first word is said. And what we do is just type 1 because that's the first instance in our indexing. And then we can go to the second word, which is right about here, and type 2, which is the second instance, which will be the word rules. Then we have the right here, and a little further over, which will be 3. That's actually lined up perfectly, so I'll just leave that one alone. And then I'll put number 4 right next to this large waveform, which is the word world, and hit 4. So now when we play through in our RAM preview, you can see that our animation finishes just as the word is being spoken. So now that we've got our animation keyed to an audio track, let's just check out the other advanced settings that we have in this scale animation. So the next down on our list is mode, and right now it's set to add, and that's the default. And what it's saying is that as the animation progresses, it will add the text. If we hit subtract, it will do just the opposite. You can see the text disappearing as it goes through the composition. There's also intersect, which won't apply here because there's nothing intersecting in our text. There's the min, max, and the difference. I'll let you check those out on your own. The amount right now is set to 100%, but if we drop that down, that just basically, let's change this to add again. Basically changes the beginning size of the text. See, now we're beginning with a change in size of 49%. It's a little confusing. 100% actually means that it starts from nothing, and 0% means that it starts from everything. And if I drag it all the way, you can see we can actually start at -100, which makes the text twice as big, and then it will resize itself down into place. But we'll just go ahead and leave that at +100. You can change the shape, square, either ramp up or ramp down. Let's change it to ramp up. And what that does is it basically just slows the progression of the animation until the end, where it ramps it up really quickly. Ramp down, as you can imagine, is the opposite. Triangle, round, and smooth, just different variations. We can also change how the animation gets eased. If we want to ease, we can ease the high. Let's bring that up to 100, and what that'll do is slow to fast, slow to fast, slow to fast. And that's on each individual word because we're still based on words. So the animation starts from a slow animation to a fast one. As you can imagine, if we bring this down to 0 and raise the ease low, it's just the opposite. It starts fast and ends slow. But we'll just leave these right at 0. You can also randomize the order just by clicking off. It toggles it to on. Let's take this ramp off of there, leave it square. The world SolidBox rules. So that's not going to work too well for us right now, but it is an option, so I'll leave that to off. And that's all of our advanced settings in the scale animation. So let's go ahead and add another animation property. So we can go to add property. So by selecting any of these properties in Animator 1, it will show up still under Animator 1. If you want to add a completely different animation, then you'll have to go to Animate and then choose Opacity, and then we'll have Animator 2. But Control Z to undo that. I'll just show that you can accomplish pretty much the same thing by adding it under the same animator. So we'll hit Opacity, and now we have that controller right here. So let's drag it back and maybe start at 0. Add that keyframe and bring it up to 100. And you can see the opacity starting from 0 and coming into 100 once the word animates to its full size. So once again, let's do one more RAM preview so we can see our final product. SolidBox rules the world. Not bad. So as you can see, this just took about 5 minutes and we have a title sequence that's far more interesting than just your standard role title. And this composition is ready to be imported into any project in Premiere Pro. So obviously there's far more settings and things to play with in this text animator, but you can see with not much effort you can really get a great product. But hopefully you'll take this as an opportunity to explore it a little more on your own and create some really great animated title sequences. So thanks for watching this week's Productivity Enhancer. Until next time.